All right, take two. My battery just died on me halfway through. Ugh. Let's talk about grading the Montreal Canadiens during the pause. Now, before I get started, I just want to ask you to please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, which will alert you when my next video comes out, which will be about the Minnesota Wild. Now, the last team I graded was the Nashville Predators there. I'm obviously shooting these videos in reverse alphabetical order for the NHL clubs, and I'll throw up a few links up top of the last few ones that I shot. Of course, you can also find them in my playlist. Got some COVID-19 here. I just got to tuck under the hat. Okay. Now, the Canadiens. They've been retooling for the past few years. Bergevin's been making a lot of deals. The major issue is, although they have the number 6th ranked prospect pool by the Hockey News, and a lot of guys who are stepping up into the big club, can these new players, these rookies, get good enough in time to help the team contend for a Stanley Cup while players like Weber, Price, and even Petrie are still relevant? I don't know about that. Petrie is a UFA after next season, by the way. We'll see if they keep him, re-sign him, or trade him even. Now, let's talk about where they were this season. They started off really well in October and then just sucked in November. And they just sort of teeter-tottered their way through the rest of the season. They didn't finish it too well either. They lost their last 3 games before their pause. Were 4-5-1 in their last 10. They finished with 71 points, 10 points out of a playoff spot, the last wildcard spot, which the Columbus Blue Jackets hold. And yeah. Now, Bergevin, the wheeler dealer, started the trade parade back on June 30th in 2019 when he traded Delorier to the Anaheim Ducks, who, by the way, I think leads the league in fights by a wide margin too, I believe. Now, on the same day, he traded Andrew Shaw back to the Chicago Blackhawks for 3 draft picks. And fast forward to January, they traded Mike Riley, the defenseman, to the Ottawa Senators for a pick. Then they had some injuries on defense and picked up Marco Scandella from the Sabres. But then for only for a 4th round pick, and then they went and flipped him less than a month and a half later to the St. Louis Blues, of course, for a 2nd and a conditional 4th. Of course, St. Louis recently re-signed the guy, so that conditional 4th is theirs. Great job of doubling their money there. Now, who can forget how Ilya Kovalchuk got bought out by the LA Kings, was signed to a no-risk deal by the Canadiens, and the romance just bloomed, didn't it, between the fans and everyone else of Montreal. He played really well, and Bergevin decided to let him, to trade him, get something for him, because it didn't look like they were going to make the playoffs. Let him play with Ovi, see if he could chase a cup in his old age there. And yeah, that's about it. A few other trades were made, but those are the biggest ones of note. Now, injuries. I'm just going to quickly mention these. The only lingering one is from Victor Mete, who fractured his foot back in February. He's the only one who's still in the IR, by the way. But they did have a few injuries, key ones, between February and March. Going one to Drouin, who just had an injury-riddled season. Lindgren, their backup goaltender, and Thomas Tatar. Sorry, it's just like a reflex thing. Maybe it's a mix of a seizure. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about some stats that I'm going to throw at your face. Starting with the special teams. The power play still stinks. It's 21st in the league. Their penalty kill is also 21st. Wins, they're 24th. Points, they're 24th. Goals for, they're 17th in the league. Goals against, they're 18th. Shots against per game, they're 13th in the league, sitting at 31.1, allowing that. Now, shots for is a different story. They're 2nd in the league, just behind the Vegas Golden Knights, pelting 34.1 frozen pucks at the opposition a night. Their face-off win percentage sits at 12th. Not too bad. And yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about some of their players' stats, starting with the goaltenders, beginning with Carey Price, who's now 32 years old, will be 33 in August. He's getting up there. He's got 6 more years left on that deal. In 58 games this season, he had a .909 save percentage. Felt like watching him throughout the season, it was higher than that. But yeah, last season in 66 games, he had a .918. The season before that, in 49 games, he had a .900. Let's hope he can get back into better form when it comes to the numbers. Anyhow, now he was backed up by a few goalies this season, one of them being Charlie Lindgren, who I mentioned earlier is getting injured. He only played 6 games this season with an .888 save percentage. And then there was Keith Kincaid, who they signed as UFA. He only played 6 games too, .875 save percentage. Carey Price is doing it all himself. But finishing off with some good news of the goaltenders, their possible goaltender of the future, Caden Primeau, although he only played 2 games with the club, he did have a .931 save percentage. In 33 games in the AHL, .908. And then, of course, he spent a couple of years in the NCAA and had sparkling numbers there. So his future looks really bright. Now, the defense. Let's move on to that. Starting off with the top 4 point getters. Jeff Petry's number 1, right shot D, 32 years old. As I may have mentioned, he's got 1 more year left on his contract. He played all 71 games, 11 goals, 40 points, -10, played 23.39 a night. Second on this list is Weber, at 34 years old, grizzled vet, 65 games he played, had 15 goals, most of any defender, 36 points, was a +8, and not shockingly had the highest average ice time per game at 24 minutes. Third here is Ben Sherratt. He's 28 years old, played 69 games, 9 goals, 21 points, +5, played just over 23 minutes a night. And last here I've got Victor Mete, who I mentioned injuring his foot. He's only 21, played 51 games, 4 goals, 11 points, +5, 16 minutes a night. This kid has definitely got a bit of a higher ceiling, so that's great. And then I can't leave this without mentioning Cale Flurry, who he's a right shot defender, and he actually played 41 games with the big club, averaging 14.21 a night. Now, he had 1 point, 1 goal, but was a +1. So yeah, now he was sent to the HL on January 31st, so he played all those games at the beginning of the season. But this guy could be playing beside Alexander Romanov, their first overall ranked prospect. Of course, he's a left shot defender. He just finished his contract in the KHL. Montreal just signed him not long ago. So the future is bright in that aspect. I possibly see them paired up in the bottom pair to start next season. Moving on to the forwards. From the most points down, starting with Thomas Tatar. Sorry about that. Now, he's 29 years old, left winger, had played 68 games, had 22 goals, tied for most on the team, 61 points, most of any person on the team, was a +5, and skated 16-18 a night. Second is Philip Dunno, one of the best shutdown centers in the league. He's only 26 too, played 71 games, all of them for the Canadiens, had 13 goals, 47 points, +18, best on the club, and skated 18.51 a night. But that was not the most for the forwards, and I'll get to that in a second. Third on the list is Max Domi, who had a disappointing year. Especially, he'll tell you that for his standards. He's 24 years old. He'll be a UFA with arbitration rights at the end of this season. In 71 games this season, he had 17 goals, 44 points. He wasn't awful, just not nearly good enough to what we think his potential could still be. He was a -3 on the season, playing just over 17 minutes a night. And last year I've got Brendan Gallagher, who's 27 and in 59 games had 22 goals, tied for the lead on the team, 43 points, +9, played just a shade under 17 minutes a night. Now, I got to give some special mention here to Nic Suzuki, who played his first year in the NHL at age 20, and he played all 71 games, most of them being on that third line center, had 13 goals, 41 points, was a minus 15, but whatever, he's a rookie, and most of them don't put up well in that category, and played just a shade under 16 minutes a night. This kid is going to blossom to be probably at least a really good second line center. Now, some other special mentions. How can I go without saying Ilya Kovalchuk's name again? In 22 games with Montreal, he had 6 goals, 13 points, and was a +6. He hasn't been a plus player since 2010 in the NHL. Yeah, everyone loves him there. There's a good chance he resigns. We'll see how that works out. In 7 games with Washington, by the way, he has got 1 goal, 4 points, and is a 0 in the plus-minus category. Now, I can't leave without mentioning Jonathan Drouin. He's had an injury-riddled season. He did start off really well to begin the season, but has only played 27 games. He's had a couple of injuries, has 7 goals and 15 points, and was a -6 this season. Remember, last season in 81 games, he had 18 goals, 53 points, -8. This guy never seems to quite reach his potential. I think we're all still waiting for it, but he's getting up there in age. I mean, he's only 25, so there's still time. He's still in his prime. Another 2-3 years at least. So we'll cross our fingers for him for next year. And I want to end here, of course, with Kotkaniemi, who probably started prematurely last year with the club at age 18. He played playing 79 games last year with 11 goals, 34 points, +1. Not bad. Playing second and third line center minutes. And then he went through some injuries this year, including a concussion. Only played 36 games with the club. Kind of lost his confidence. Had 6 goals, 8 points, -11. So they sent him down to the AHL. And he did really well there. In 13 games, he had 13 points. And was a 0 in the plus-minus category. So we could see him back next year. I don't think he's a bust quite yet. He's 19. But if we don't see him start with a team next season, or maybe he doesn't come back till halfway through, I don't see anything wrong with him playing top line minutes in the AHL for 40 games or so before he comes back up. We'll see. Because I think I see Canadiens still in the retool mode next year. I don't see them making the playoffs. But cue the hate mail in my comment section. In any case, how do I grade this team? I don't know. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs this season either. They're kind of where I thought they would be. I'll give them a D. Maybe a D+. Maybe a C-. I would obviously love to know how you think this team should be graded in the comment section down below, and why. And yeah, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, it's still a little crazy out there. Please be safe, and I'll see you soon.